He was crowned king before he learned how to read. He ruled an empire before he could even tie his sandals, and when he died, his name was erased, like he never existed. But thousands of years later, his face was uncovered, his tomb shocked the entire world, and the truth about his life is far stranger than any legend. This is not just the story of a boy king. This is the story of how a 9-year-old child was thrown onto the throne of Egypt, how he was used like a pawn, how he brought back the gods his father tried to destroy, and how his mysterious death still confuses experts to this day, because behind the gold mask was a sick, limping boy born from incest, raised in a dying city, crowned in chaos. His name was Tutankhamun, but his story was almost lost forever. He was born into chaos, his father was hated, and when he died, the whole kingdom shook. Tutankhamun was born around 1341 BC. His name meant the living image of Aten, but later, it would change, and so would everything around him. His father was Akhenaten, a pharaoh who tried to erase Egypt's old gods. He built a new religion. He said only one god existed, Aten, the sun disk. He closed temples, destroyed old statues, and forced people to worship his way. The priests were furious. The people were scared. The gods of Egypt were vanishing. Akhenaten moved the capital to a new city, Amarna. He banned images of old gods. Even the great Ammonius was wiped from walls. But Akhenaten didn't care. He ruled for 17 years, and during that time, he had several children. Tutankhamun was one of them. His mother's identity is still debated, but the shocking part? Many believe she was Akhenaten's sister. Yes, his full sister back then. Royal incest was normal, but it had a cost. Many royal children were born sick, and Tutankhamun may have been one of them. He had a clubbed foot, he walked with a cane, he likely suffered from malaria, but none of that mattered in the eyes of fate, because Akhenaten died. And when he died, Egypt panicked. His city of Amarna collapsed, his religion collapsed. No one knew who should rule next. For a short time, someone named Smenkhare ruled. No one even knows if it was a man or a woman. Some say it was Nefertiti, Akhenaten's wife, taking the throne in disguise, but it didn't last. Then came Tutankhamun. He was only 9 years old, just a child, but Egypt needed a king, and they chose him. Why? Because he was royal blood, because he could be controlled, and because Egypt needed to fix what Akhenaten broke. The priests came back, the temples reopened, the old gods were restored, and young Tutankhamun was the perfect puppet. But even a puppet can make history, and that's exactly what he did. He was crowned king in Thebes. The priests surrounded him, so did powerful men. And Horemheb, they whispered in his ear, they pulled the strings. Tutankhamun wore the crown, but they held the power. He changed his name from Tutankhaten to Tutankhamun. He returned to the old gods. He reopened the temples of Ammonius. He told the people, the gods you love are back. He didn't speak those words himself. He was only 9. But the people cheered anyway. He married Enkhsenamun. She was his half-sister, also the daughter of Akhenaten and Nefertiti. They were both children of incest, both born from a broken family. But they were Egypt's hope. They ruled together. They tried to rebuild what their father had destroyed. They moved the capital from Amarna back to Thebes. They gave money to temples. They restored lost traditions. Tutankhamun was trying to be a real king, even at age 10, even with pain in his legs, even when he couldn't walk without help. But there was tension everywhere. The Hittites in the north were growing strong. Egypt's army had weakened under Akhenaten. The generals wanted war, but Tutankhamun was just a boy. So the generals made the plans. The boy king signed the orders, and the fighting returned. Inside the palace, he was struggling. CT scans of his body show broken bones. He had a curved spine. He may have needed help just to stand, but outside, his image was perfect. He appeared in statues as a warrior, as a hunter, as a god. In truth, he was suffering. He had over 100 walking canes in his tomb. He had malaria and possibly a genetic disease from royal inbreeding, but still, he ruled. And under his rule, Egypt felt normal again. People said the gods had returned. Temples were filled. Offerings flowed. It seemed like peace had returned. Then came the shock. Tutankhamun died. He was only 18 or 19. He had no children. He left no heir, and the throne was empty again. How did he die? No one knows for sure. Some say it was a broken leg that got infected. Others say malaria took him. Some believe he was murdered. There's even a theory that his head injury was no accident, that someone close wanted him gone after his death. His wife panicked. Enkhsenamun wrote a letter to the enemy, the king of the Hittites. She asked him to send one of his sons to marry her. She said, I will never marry a servant. It was a desperate move, but the prince was murdered before he reached Egypt. Soon after, she disappears from history. No one knows what happened to her. She may have been forced to marry the old advisor. who took the throne after Tutankhamun's death. I buried the boy king in a rush. His tomb was small. It wasn't made for a pharaoh. It looked like it was meant for someone else. But I needed to bury him fast, so he used that tomb. He painted the walls quickly. He placed the body inside and sealed it shut. The world forgot Tutankhamun. His name was erased from records. His tomb was buried under rubble. Other tombs were built on top of it, and for 3,000 years, no one spoke his name. Then in 1922, everything changed. Howard Carter found a step in the sand. He dug deeper. He found a sealed doorway. He opened it. Inside, he saw treasures: gold, statues, beds, chariots, weapons, thrones. Everything was there, untouched, and there, inside a golden coffin, lay the boy king Tutankhamun. His body was wrapped, his face covered in a gold mask. His name was remembered again, and the world was shocked. He ruled for only 10 years. He was a sick child, a pawn in the hands of the powerful, but his tomb made him the most famous pharaoh in the world today. People know his name not because he ruled wisely, not because he won great wars, but because his tomb survived, because it was never robbed, because his story was buried and then found. That's the story of how a 9-year-old became king, how a forgotten boy changed history, not in life, but in death. Can you rule a kingdom at 9? Tutankhamun did, and now, so many years later, he's more famous than all of them. When Tutankhamun died, everything fell apart. He had no sons, no one left to take the throne, and that was dangerous in ancient Egypt. Without a clear ruler, powerful men stepped in. The old advisor, made his move. He was already close to the royal family. He may have married Tutankhamun's widow, Enkhsenamun. No love involved, just power. That marriage gave him the right to be king, but I was old. He wouldn't rule for long, so the generals were watching. Horemheb was the top general in the army. He served under Tutankhamun. He saw what I was doing. He waited. I ruled for just 4 years, then he died, and Horemheb took over. He wasn't a royal, but he had the army, and that's what mattered. Once he became king, Horemheb erased everything. He destroyed names. He wiped out Akhenaten. He wiped out Tutankhamun. He even wiped out on official lists of pharaohs. He made it look like they never existed. He said the country had been in chaos. He blamed the old rulers, and he promised to restore order. He destroyed temples built by Akhenaten. He reused statues from Tutankhamun's reign. He crushed any memory of the Amarna period. He wanted Egypt to forget the past 30 years. Horemheb ruled like a king, but acted like a warrior. He set harsh rules for corrupt officials. He gave power back to the priests of Ammonius. He made sure the army stayed loyal, and he died without a son. So he chose a man named Paramesu to be his successor. That man changed his name to Ramses I and started a new royal line. The 19th dynasty. Tutankhamun's family was gone. Akhenaten was gone. I was gone. Even Nefertiti vanished from history. In just a few years, everything changed. A new dynasty ruled. A new story began, and the world forgot the boy king until one tomb in the Valley of the Kings changed everything again. Tutankhamun was never supposed to be remembered. He ruled for just 10 years. He died young, broken, and forgotten, but fate had other plans. The priests erased his name. The tomb was hidden. The world moved on, but 3,000 years later, the sand gave up its secret, and the boy king rose again. He became a global icon. His golden mask became the face of ancient Egypt. He taught us how one life, even short, can echo forever. He showed us how power works, how history is written, and how even a forgotten child can outshine kings and empires. That's why Tutankhamun matters, not just because of what he did, but because of what he left behind. And if you made it this far, you're not just curious, you're part of a rare group that actually cares about the truth behind history. So hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell, because the next story we tell might just change the way you see the world again. And remember, the past isn't dead, it's just waiting to be found.